sa Cebuano eh. Pero, Mr. Tan, maya ko ang panahon. Anyway, this is a very unique feeling for me. Kasi bago po ako napunta sa housing, nasa AIM ako. Since ako'y one of the most senior faculty doon, never na pinagtuturo kami ng hapon. Yung mga faculty, mga sibata nila, Ryan, yun ang mga pinagtuturo namin. Ang hirap dito, dahil ako'y 1 year and 8 months, 7 months pa lang, si Professor Garland, Professor Bustos Jr, mas senior sa akin, 3 years. Diba? At si Tony Bernardo, kagad-sibiyero sa akin, 5 years nata, kinuha na nila yung mga choice class. So, puro muna ang magsalita dahil ako wala akong pinanagod. Anyway, I will have 2 versions of this talk. A short version, pag biglang natapos agad yung MOA signing ni Ate Lele at handa na siya, or a long version. Pag na-traffic siya, bumaba yung usapan nila, ako rin po dapat magsalita rito hanggang makabalik siya. Pero kung hindi po mapili naman po, dahil naman sila yung short version, gagayahin ko na lang si Tony Bernardo. Bibigay ko na lang yung aking cellphone din sa inyo mamaya at pati ang email mahaba para pwede na rin kayo magtanong kung dumating agad si Teles. Pero kung siya dumating, isipin po nyo, ako dating natuturo doon sa AIN. Ang ibig kong sabihin nun yung mga profesor na ayaw ibigay ang mic. So, pag kami pinagsalita nyo, hanggang mamaya na to. Okay, so meron pa akong presentation. Okay, towards sustainable housing. Ito yung gagawin ko, yung kanong gawin. Pagkatapos yan, second, mag-react ako doon sa sinabi ni Ryan kanina doon sa NHMFC. Pagkatapos, speaker na nasa ako bukas doon sa Creva. Ayaw ko may pupunta sa inyo na ito pa kayo. Gagawin ko na rin sasabihin ko doon sa Creva bukas sa kanilang video dito. Pag hindi pa natapos, nangatong sa akin yung iba rito, kakandoon sila ng question na hindi dumating si Darlene. Okay, sige. Yung umpisa po, ito lang outline, yung kwento po yung NHMFC, mga kamamit ko rito, nakuha ko rin, bago lang sa housing, different bit of updates of the things that I've done in my 18 months here, the update of the NHMFC, and then what we are going to do in the next few months. And then, at the end, yung talagang siguro, what should be OSHDP? Hirap ng walang conscious, ng walang power. At least nga may OSHDP isa. Yung kumpanya ko napakahirap. MC. NHMFC walang power. At least yung Amerika, anime, may mga ano sila Kasi si OSHDP may OSHDP sa harap At what do you think? What do I think the role of OSHDP? The Philippine Housing Finance. Okay, very quickly, quick background on national mortgage. Started during the time of actually the original panahon ni President Marcos. Nag-update President Aquino na reorient from being some of you are probably familiar with it because the major unified housing law program pinalik with major secondary mortgage for government mortgage institution in 1997, and it was mandated to operate a viable housing finance system. Hindi sinabi by enhancing and ensuring liquidity in the housing sector. Yun ang palagi yung sinasabi sa mga lawyers ko, sinasabi nila lumalapang daw sa mandate. Sabi na hindi lang naman secondary mortgage. Sinasabi enhancing and ensuring liquidity in the housing sector. And key programs as of today are the RTP and the Bahay Ban. Okay, what is the HRRBP? Ito yung medyo primitive ni Ryan kanina. it's a pool of money which seeks to liquefy asset portfolio of private developers by purchasing their housing loan receivables for part of the asset pool for future securitization. Okay, ang keywords po dyan, liquefy, asset portfolio, and then season housing loan, and to form part of the asset pool for future securitization. Yun po yung importante. And during the time, nakablue po yan, during the time I took over, I limited the loans for to be 3 million. No? So sa narinig ngayon, baka eventually baka siguro natin yan sa 450 ba, whatever. On to the pangailangan. Ang comment kanina ni Ryan, is it possible, Ryan, and my own, hindi mo quote kita correctly, ano? Can NHMFC simplify and accelerate the processing? Okay, balik na lang, okay. Okay. There are 3 reasons why it's very difficult to do that. And the reason is really, first reason is really funding. Unlike most financial institutions in the Philippines ngayon, ang problema nila, including my own style, SHMC, problema na napakarami ng pera. Okay? Kami, baliktad, na nasa long-term finance, very limited ang funds namin. When I arrived, the equity was at negative 6 billion. Ano po ibig sabihin nun? Nabubuhay kami sa utang. Yung funding namin ay nanggaling sa SSL, DSIS, pag-ibigay at babayad kami ng interest. So therefore, kung ang pera mo, inuutang mo, kung ang pera mo, inuutang mo, di ba? Tendency, you're quite strict, ano? Kasi, kung nakabili ako ng anyway, the first is lack of funding. If your funding is quite limited, you tend to be more strict. Kasi we have roughly about 600 trillion. So I get stuck in the next year. In my 2 years, minsan po hindi naman kami binigyan ng DBM. So, paano na kami next year? Right? And that's why tendencies will probably a little bit strict because our objective is really we're trying to get the season housing loans because we want to use this asset pool for our future securitization. Kasi kung di pa season, naka-impact lang ito ng inventory, you cannot securitize that. Kaya na tendency, we can ako. I will just do my short version, ano na sa atin ngayon. So, I guess that's one of the reasons we tend to be more strict than the other housing industry. Okay, last year we did the buy bonds too. It was the first ever listed retail. So, dalawa yun. It's not only a working stock security, it was the first ever listed. It means if you need the money, you can actually go to the stock market and sell it. And it's retail, meaning the minimum denomination was 5,000. So, a lot of the Filipinos, the central bank study showed that only 1% of Filipinos have ever owned investment products. So it was an opportunity for them to invest and then in something which is high yielding and yet safe. But in fact, it has performed so well that our underwriter trustee is requesting for a predatory upgrade. It was rated over the A2 rating when we first issued. Based on the first year performance, they have enough data to ask for a legal delivery. So we thought it was very nice because for a small investor to have a high yielding investment, which is making a gross of 6%, and yet it's going to be rated triple A. Okay, we're in the last quarter this year, we're going to do it again with Bahay Bond 3, and it's going to, the half will get good for retail investors, the 30% for institutional investors, and 20% will be kept by NHMFC. Pakitandaan lang po yung 20% we kept by NHMFC. We'll take that up in the last slide later on. Usually, we have a senior note and you have a junior note, which is held by the issuer. Okay? And that's where we can share the opportunities later. Okay, since this is an all staff, even though my good friend Ed Manisi will discuss this later on, let me just discuss something which we have worked on. And it's been presented to our board, it's been presented to the board of CFP, to the board of NHMFC. Like I said, they have the opposite problem of NHMFC. Kami walang pera, sila maraming pera. So, ayaw pa nilang issue. So, essentially, the underlying assets of the CFP funds will be the CFP loans, which are a mortgage financing program, which assist occupants of and Ed will discuss that later on. It's a program of the SECURITIZATION, which is our 99% owned subsidiary. Okay, it's going to be about 2.2 billion, and the structure will be 80% senior notes, and again, there's going to be junior note, 20%. Makitandaan lang po yun. Gagamitin ko yung mamaya. And we have already, as discussed by Tony Bernardo kanina, it's already been approved by the HLURB as alternative compliance to Section 18 of the. So if the other developers who are not interested in buying socialized housing will buy this, then it meets their socialized housing requirement. I think you're all quite familiar with this. Section 18 requires developers, development area for socialized housing equivalent. So at least 20% of the total. Or the total subdivision for the cost. So, kunyari 1 million, dapat 200,000. So, pwedeng gawin yan, or bumili kayo ng 200,000 worth of CFP bonds pang station lang. Tony Bernardo, greater detail, but the ones we're addressing is really blue in 5.3. If you subscribe or purchase an asset-backed security originated or operated by the individuals. That's what the CFP bond is addressing. And I think what will happen is the right will only be given to the first buyer. So, reaching ng 2.2 billion, yung unang makabili, they can avail of the exemption, and then they can leave it the next day if they want. So, if they're not interested in return, they're interested in using it as a compliance, and they can actually hold it for a day, register it with the nearest retail URB office, and then put it on the that's the structure. Again, so tandaan nyo, merong senior notes na bibili sa investor at may junior notes na nire-retain namin. Babalikan natin sa last slide. Okay, ano ba ang role namin dyan? Well, ang usual role, kung scenario 1, SHMC yung kausap namin, yung nasa advisor, ranger, program manager, kami kumakulit sa mga abogado, sa mga accountant, SEC, etc. We've done it several times, and then sila sa nila mapuputin yung pera. But, as shown in the HLRB guideline 5.3, but as long as the securities are originated or conveyed by the SHMC, pwedeng mag-tripartite ito. you can actually sell some of your assets to SHFC or enter into some joint venture arrangement, which we can discuss earlier, and then we can discuss later. And then we can actually submit that to HLURB as compliant to the food. Okay. Anyway, okay. This is my last item. But so, how can the OSHDP members get involved in something like this? Kasi what is holding up the show ngayon sa CNP Fund is ang gusto ng board nila, paano ba ang sharing ng financial risk, financial reward. Ang sabi ko, para yan si Bruce Willis kasama si Brazil dito sa Rocky Board. Ayun, Felixberto U. Okay. Mas mayaman po ngayon daw si Felixberto U kaysa kay Bruce Willis, kahit magaganda yung mga asawa ni Bruce Willis. Bakit? Kasi po si Bruce Willis parang dito sa kaliwa. Kung binabayaran siya, straight pay. Pag umpisa to, bayaran mo ako ng 10 million, nandun ako sa shooting araw-araw. Terminator 1, whatever. We won't be, mapupunit kayo dito, 100 million. Tama siya. Pero si Felixberto U, nandun siya sa kabilang dulo. Ano siya, may sharing. Kung pumalpak yung yung movie, I get 10%. Ito naman, 10 na. Si Bruce Willis, 20. Pero pag nag-blockbuster yan, may 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, magiging ka 1 million, wala ka na pa kayo yung pinigin yan. So, actually, we can also do it that way na yung sinasabi namin ni Ed. Kasi, we could actually charge it a fee, but we could actually share yung 20% junior notes. Kasi po, ang potential nun, let's just do a simple algebra. Maraming ganito. Kasi ako, yun lang, let's do Kunyari, yung structuring ng CMB Ban. CMB Ban, 6% yung asset pool. Assume na natin na tama yung computation nila. Eh, 80% yung collection efficiency ratio. So, 6 times 4.8, 4.8 asset pool. Tapos sabi natin 80% yung senior note. So, assume natin 80%, i-list natin at 1%. Kasi hindi naman hinahabol ang regard doon eh. Hinahabol doon yung sector. That's 80% at 1%. Plus, yung junior note, 20% is X. Yung X kasi yung equal sa pupunta. Pag kinumpin niya yung X equals 20%. Okay. Kung babayaran na kami ng fee, sa amin yung 20% at pumutok yan, kikita ka ng 20%. Diba? Pero kung mapayag si Ed na magdudod ko yun, paghati yan, makamas. Kaya ako din naman yun. Lahat darami yung pera nila. Kaya dapat tulungan niyo yung CNP, tulungan niyo sila Ed. That's the pera. And I think we can also do it that way. We can have a tripartite arrangement, see kayo, and then pool natin yung mga assets, and then we can just discuss some sort of arrangement. And I'm also doing that way. Actually, i-announce na later on, bibigyan na bata kami ng pera next year, actually, ng mga loans ng mga bangko, once we obviously prioritize. Ito kasi, hingin ako sa Atty. Raul de Mesa, paano ba sharing? Alam mo, gusto nyo? Bruce Willis model o Felixberto U model? May ko na lang sa Felixberto U. Pag-usap po tayo, hindi na mga pag-usap. Yun lang po, kasi nandito na yung Ate Beket ko. Maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bustos. May I request the OSHDP National President, the Convention Chair, and Mr. Jen Bunga to present the plaque of appreciation to Dr. Bustos. Senator, Representative.
Question first kay Dr. Bustos. I think we floated a while ago about yung secondary mortgage market sa Philippines. Ang issue nila hindi pa daw ready ang Pilipinas sa ganitong model. Ang secondary mortgage po is basically yung model na sinundan po ng Amerika that we're trying to follow, but a much improved version para hindi mangyari yung collapse. Sir, opinion lang po for purposes of discussion. Do you think we are ready for it? And what are the mga areas na kailangan natin gawin para mag-mature ang players so we can have a vibrant and more expanded mortgage market?
The same question was asked to me when I was in Thailand 2 weeks ago. They're developing, although they started, 10 years later, but maybe essentially, the textbooks, a lot of the people here already went to their part on the textbook says the first step, and even Chris mentioned this, is the regulatory framework. I think we just look at the law itself. Again, as Ate Lelito said, with all due respect to our lawyers, magbibilang yung mga lawyers natin. Kompleto tayo sa mga Securitization Act, kompleto tayo sa mga nakapata, HDC Charter. But unfortunately, when it comes to implementing, sometimes the spirit of the original law is not reflected in the implementing rules and regulations. So, example, let's start with the main Securitization Act. Okay, the Securitization Act contains to encourage securitization by giving certain benefits that focus upon particular section, Section 33. Section 33 sinasabi na para lalong maingganyo ang mga tao bumili ng mga mortgage-backed securities. Kami ang Kongreso, ginagawa namin walang interest. Hindi mo ba yung interest? Basta mayroong certification ng HUDCC, ng BOF, na yung mga asset pool na ay below 3 million pesos. Napakalinaw yan, diba? Alam ko sa law, hindi naman ang lawyer, pero mayroong legal principle ata na pag napakalinaw ng batas at kahit na sinong tao babasa yun, hindi na kailangan interpret o whatever, hindi na kailangan revenue ruling or whatever. Pero kami po, nung nag-issue kami ng BP2 at sinabi namin dahil ito ay galing sa housing agency at mayroon akong certification galing sa SECURITIZATION at PDOL na ang underlying policy, in-announce ko sa diaryo na ang mortgage-backed security na yan ay tax-free. Hindi kayo bayad. Ako po ay pinatawag ng isang maraming pay na government bureaucrats. At sinabi, bakit mo in-announce na dapat meron akong revenue ruling bago ako pwede mag-claim ng sarili ko. Ba't nagkaroon ng securitization act? Ba't nagkaroon ng HDC Charter? Kasi HDC Charter, maganda rin patasyon, sinabi rin, nagpag-aaranti ka at yung interest rate mo ay below 11.5%. Hindi na kailangan mag-tax. Yung pong interest ng aming mortgage tax security is 6%. Sabi po ng aming grade 2 teacher, mas malaki 11.5 sa 6. So, kala ko po, tax-free. So, what am I saying? The first step, regulatory framework, I think it's there. With all due respect to our congressmen and senators, magagaling sila. Pero minsan, the way it's implemented, I can go on and on, yung huling meeting ng HUDCC, pinresent ko po yung real estate investment fund na napakaganda rin. Pero the way IRR was, wala ko nag-i-issue din sa apat na taon na yung batas. So, again, the first step is the way the laws are implemented are not encouraging the people to participate. Kasi puro government, nag-winner kami ni former bumalik yung Angela. Pinalitan ni Angela sa Miro people na brand ni CEO of sabi niya, hindi naman kailangan gobyerno ang security mortgage. I agree. Pero unless the government does it first, the private sector will not follow. So my role has always been, my past life, when I was a PNP sa Lampa, ang private sector, the government is the first mover. Yung privatization, yung ATM, and then susunod yung private. So we're trying to do the first, that's successful, pero yung aming mismo mga kasama sa gobyerno, maganda yung pagkasabi ni Ate Lilian kanina eh, kami nasa dulo ng pila eh. Gusto na namin ibigay yung cheque eh. Pero yung sabi ni Chris na 47 pieces of paper na nakapaka eh, hindi mo ma-release yung pera. Kung na-release ko yun, nakabuli ka ng buka. Makalusot naman sa buka mo ngayon, yung next administration, kamukha yung asawa ng boss ni Ed, kahit nakumita na sila ng 1 million, approve na ng buka nila noon, biglang din-approve, makukulong ka. Diba? etc. So, ang tendency, makikita natin yung 47 pieces of paper kahit na maganda yung logo. So, again, until malinaw yung mga malinaw na hindi magsisisihan na nagkaroon, susundan talaga namin yung step by step. Kasi, sa gobyerno po, basta may computer ka at meron kang internet address, galit kasi sa government employee, sulatan mo araw-araw yung ombudsman. They are mandated by law. Again, with all due respect to lawyer, to investigate, di ba? So, araw-araw sumasagot ka sa ombudsman. Kaya po, pasensya na kayo, may nakaharap sa akin sa labas, medyo matagal daw ng process, kasi hindi tayo yung legal tender. Nag-iingat po yung mga lawyer namin, nag-iingat din po yung aming mga processor dahil baka po makasuhan sila, baka po yung isang lawyer sa DPP, nagpapatay. Kaya ano naman na nangyari sa lawyer namin. So hanggang hindi po maayos yung internal processes at yung mga external friction into the different government agencies, mahirapan. And what will it take? Maganda pong istorya yung senior sa amin ng isang Brazil. I think a lot of you were with me. Yung hotel sa Davao about 2 years ago. The last 2 presidents kasi ng Brazil were the equivalent of our HUDCC here. Anong yun ako niya, naging presidente si President Pinay. Kung natapos yung term niya, si Secretary naman yung tumulot ng presidente. So by the time kung si Secretary Alba na yung presidente, alam na niya yung pasikot-sikot. So hindi ka pwedeng magpalasot. Number 1. That's number 2, meron silang every Friday is housing day. Equivalent ng kanilang Malacanang sa Brasilia. So, kunyari, first Friday, anong nangyayari, Ed? Bakit hindi lumalakad yung loan ng mamagana po sa Caloocan? O sabihin, kasi po yung policy, gano'n. Sino meron yan? Mayor ko ito. Ako, matatawag niya yung mayor at vice mayor ng Caloocan. Anong nangyayari? Kasi po, gano'n. Okay, next Friday, pag-uusapan namin namin. Second Friday, nandun na naman yun. So, every Friday, pinag-uusapan ng housing problem. So, yung mga external problem, kay LRA, kay Bureaucrat, nare-resolve kasi ito yung fairness. May nagtatanong, at yung nagtatanong ay nakakaintindi. Kaya, mabilis na tako. Obviously, makakabilis na budget. Kung tayo 1% yung budget ng housing, sa Brazil is 47%. Kaya sinasabi nila on-site, yung sa tutorial ng Brazil, ang rule nila on-site, hindi ka pwedeng lumayo. Meron mga informal center on a cliff overlooking Copacabana. Pakamahal na lupa. Pero since ang rule is on-site, hindi ka pwedeng ulit. Pero kasi, gumawa sila ng mga engineer, architect, mag-design kayo ng high-rise building on that cliff overlooking Copacabana. May mga informal center doon ngayon. Ang ganda view nila, overlooking Copacabana. Private sector. So, again, we should have somebody who's follow up and knowledgeable about housing, and we insist that the projects that are started will be
Thank you, sir.
If there is a city, for example, like Makati, that has conducted their own settlement of their informal settlers, I'm thinking, is there a way that we could monetize that so that there's no cost flow, but we come up with some sort sort of a bond that we could sell as in compliance. They have done several sa Palawan, sa Del Monte, but that's their own internal fund. I was thinking if there's a way of monetizing that so that they can do more resettlement effective concession at mapagbili yung. Kaya lang, problema, walang underlying cash flow. Because basically, resettlement, paano magagawin ito?
Well, President Bustos, actually, we are very liberal in looking at the socialized housing bonds. In fact, our rules only say socialized housing bonds. No? So, in various situations, we will be considering housing bonds. What we will look for in a bond, however, when we look at the design of the bond, is that the proceeds of the bond must be devoted to socialized housing. So that is what we will look for. We don't care how it is designed front end, but at the back end, we want to see that the money and the proceeds from the sale of the bond will go to socialized housing. So whenever a socialized housing bond is submitted as for approval, we will be asking the entity issuing the bond, how do you ensure that the proceeds will go to socialized housing? If it does, well, it doesn't matter how you design it. With respect to the example that you just mentioned, it's difficult to get the cash flow out of it. But if you can find a way to design that one and make sure the proceeds go to socialized housing, that's fine with us.
Yung pera na hindi pwedeng allocate sa other purposes except for other. I will quote that and I don't put it in the
Anyone else?